After the tragedy that was Mario Kart 8's battle mode, we were graced with a complete revamp with all new battle tracks, but how do they stand up and which ones are the best? Also really quick, I'm trying to reach the cool 420 subscribers goal so I can finally sit at the cool kids lunch table, so if you enjoyed, then please feel free to subscribe. Anyways, let's begin. So yeah, first up is Lunar Colony, and honestly, I'm not too much of a fan of this track, and a lot of it is just mainly due to the low gravity. I mean, I feel like anytime I'm driving going off the craters, it's literally just like, oh my goodness, I've been driving and floating around here for an eternity. Like, sometimes I just want to make a turn or go straight or whatever, and then here I am just floating along like some kind of feather in the wind. And if it isn't just a personal thing for me, I just really feel like this isn't fun for any of the modes. I mean, think about it, the craters in the map just really mess with all the items flying around, so all the random green shells and bananas, I mean, bananas in and of themselves are totally useless because 90% of the time they're just sitting in the crater where no one will ever be able to hit them because of how much they're floating. And speaking of the items, getting them in the first place can be totally annoying as you have to drive off the craters in order to get them, and this is similar to Top, where, I mean, I guess it's cool for the design, you know, it's neat or whatever, but I mean, honestly, it just makes it really annoying to get them, and it can make it really, like, I guess, demeaning to even use the items. And going back to the modes, I mean, think about, like, Renegade Roundup, for example. I mean, it is just, like, not fun whatsoever trying to get the Renegades, because all they ever do is just float around with all the ramps and the craters everywhere, so 90% of the time when you're trying to get them, your Piranha Plant can't reach them because they're just floating above you. I know that this is some people's, like, best map, or they think it really isn't that bad, but me, personally, I just don't have an enjoyable time playing on this map. I mean, at least it has decent scenery, but again, the gameplay is what I really care about, and to be honest, this just is not really one of those good ones. And to kick this one off, I want to go over the most obvious problem, and I'm pretty sure this is a pretty shared opinion. This map is way too big. I mean, this feels more like a racetrack than an actual battle track. I mean, this thing is so astronomically huge. I mean, yeah, sure, there were other tracks that were kind of huge, like Block Fort in the past, for example, but I mean, those tracks were actually really fun, but this one is just not fun at all. I mean, sure, there was a benefit to Lunar Colony. I mean, it looked nice, the idea was creative because, oh, we're gonna take advantage of the anti-gravity and you're gonna be floating around in space, what a cool idea. But this map, I mean, it's just so painfully generic. And yeah, I know that's the point of it because it's literally called Battle Stadium, but I mean, come on, really? All it is just like a giant stadium? Like, that's just so lame in comparison. But as much as I've said here about the track, the reason why it's above Lunar Colony for me is just that I think it's a little bit better for playing certain game modes on. Now, I'm not talking about balloon battle or anything. I mean, obviously with it being too big, all the items are just completely irrelevant because 90% of the time you're not going to be able to hit any of them, because whenever just somebody shoots off a random green shell, I mean, what's the chances of it actually hitting somebody? I mean, right, 0, because the map is so freaking big that like 90% of the time all the other players are on the complete opposite side of the map, so I mean, you can't really even hit them, which means that like all you're doing is just stuck there slowly driving over there because you drive super slow in battle mode trying to get over to them, and by the time you get over there, they're already on the other side of the map that you were on. So I mean, I don't know, just the map being way too big is just a big hindrance for me. But going back to what I said, it is fun on certain game modes. I mean, say for example Renegade Roundup or Shine Thief, where it's actually kind of good to have somewhat big maps where you're having to lead like a wild goose chase and everybody's trying to go after you. Like, okay, yes, that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of fun for those maps, but all the other games like Bomb on Blast or Balloon Battle, where you're just randomly going around shooting items hoping that you hit somebody because it's all that really matters in the free-for-all games, yeah, it does not work with those games whatsoever. And before I get a lot of comments about this one, I just want to say that I have nothing against this one. I mean, I'm a big fan of it, just like many other people, but in comparison to some of the other maps, I just really feel like this isn't like something that sticks out as much as the others. I mean, it's cool, it's got a cool scenery, it's got a cool design with all the multiple layers and the big ramps and the big open areas. I mean, I'll admit that's cool, it's great, but honestly, just compared to the other ones, like I said, this just does not hit the same amount of check marks as the other ones do. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest here, this more so feels like a soft reboot of Luigi's Mansion with the multiple layers and that kind of thing, which I mean isn't necessarily a bad thing, because like I said, this map does have its own identity with the whole design and some of the map elements being a little bit different from Luigi's Mansion, but overall this is just kind of a middle of the road map, nothing really to say about this one. And here we have a similar case to Dragon Palace, but this one is better due to the more compact layout. I mean, think of some of the modes that are destined for item mania, like Bomb on Blast or Balloon Battle or even Coin Runners. I mean, this map is perfect for that just because of how compact it is. I mean, you shoot a green shell and guaranteed 9 times out of 10 you're going to hit somebody. But on the contrary of that, for games that need, I guess, a little bit more space like Shine Thief and Renegade Roundup, it can just be total chaos, which I guess for some people is probably a good thing, but for me personally, sometimes when I'm just driving around, I don't want to have my shine stolen every 5 seconds just because of how many people there are since the map is so small. And I do want to preface that small maps are not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, take previous maps like Nintendo DS or the GameCube map, or even like smaller maps like Pipe Plaza. I mean, those maps are some of my absolute favorite, but just something about this map doesn't really hit the same mark as the other one. I don't know, maybe it's just because there's a lot more obstacles in the way instead of the big open design that GameCube or DS had in the past. But I mean, I don't know, just something about this map kind of feels like those maps, but equally in a way does not. But still overall a really, really good map. And yes, as surprising as this one is for being so high, this is really just a personal favorite for me. So while it's some people's bottom battle track, I honestly think that this is just honestly one of the best, but that's personally just me. I mean, for starters, it is fun for all games. It's a good mix of being equally big, but also small at the same time. So it's good for eye-animating games like Bomb on Blast and Balloon Battle, and it's equally good for the more Goose Chase games like Shine Thief and Renegade Roundup. And for the scenery, I don't know, I just really like the retro theme, and yeah, call it generic or whatever, but I mean, I've already stated what I feel over generic tracks, and honestly, this one just does not feel generic. I mean, it has retro written all over it, which makes sense because this is from the Super Nintendo, so I mean, I guess that would make a lot of sense with the whole block layout and that kind of thing, but something about the scenery just feels really classic to me. And aside from the games, I think personally for me, the most fun part of this is just camping on the borders. I mean, now you can drive on the borders that go around the map, and you can literally just sit there, and if you're playing with either dumb players or the AI, they have no idea how to get up there or what to do. So if you're playing a round of, say, Shine Thief, for example, or you have the most coin and coin runners, you can literally just sit on this border, and I wouldn't say 9 times out of 10, like maybe say 6 times out of 10, you can just sit there the whole game and completely get away with it, and nobody will be able to attack you. I just think that's honestly hilarious how you can do that. But yeah, definitely a personal favorite for me, but I can still understand why some people may not like this one. And here we are at the meta list, and obviously this one's a classic. I mean, you can never really go wrong with Luigi's Mansion. Like I said before with some of the other levels like Dragon Palace, for example, I'm just a really big fan of the multiple levels, and I think I speak for a lot of people here, as most people's favorite tracks, including myself, is Block Fort or other maps that have that kind of similar premise. So I mean, this one is a really good one in terms of that. And once again, it is equally a compact yet a big map, just mainly because of the different floors. So while it's compact because there's the different floors where you can have battles on, but it's equally big because you can have multiple people spread off across the multiple floors. It's overall a really solid map and definitely a really big welcome one from the GameCube. But if I have to say one thing that I do miss from the GameCube, is that I do really miss the old music. I don't know, just something about the new music just doesn't really hit the same as the original. And yeah, I know it was recycled from Bowser's Castle from that game, but I mean, come on, compare that music to this new music, and honestly, it just hits the creepy vibes so much more than the new one. And for the runner-up, we have Urchin Underpass, and this is an amazing map with a lot of open areas. I mean, the thing that's really interesting to me is how a Splatoon map works in a kart racer. I mean, that goes to show how amazing this design even was, even though it was originally a Splatoon design. I mean, how can you fault it for that? And because of that, there's really solid map design here with a lot of, open areas. There's a lot of winding paths going off to the side, and then you can, of course, interact with them by jumping off ramps and that kind of thing. I mean, I just think that's really cool and definitely a really solid design for a battle map. I mean, it just feels like total zaniness half the time, which I mean, like I've said before, it is certainly a really good thing because I mean, that's what just battle mode is all about, just playing around, having fun with items, and just getting lost in the chaos of all the items going around everywhere. It's just a really amazing time. If I had to say one minor criticism, and the only reason why this isn't number one on my list, is just that there's maybe a little too many obstacles in the way. Like I said before, and while it's pretty obvious, this is originally a Splatoon map, and with a shooter, obviously there should be some cover because obviously, when I guess you're shooting somebody in Splatoon, you want to have some cover, and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, that is carried over into the Mario Kart 8 track, which I mean, I guess is a good thing because again, you can take cover from shells and that kind of thing, but in a way, when you're just driving around, I mean, I feel like sometimes I just run into stuff all the time, and I wouldn't say that's a big annoying thing because it doesn't happen too frequently, but it still is a little minor grievance that I do have the track, but that definitely doesn't hold it from being an amazing map. And if you didn't already know by now, number one is indeed Woohoo Town, and this is certainly just an amazing track. I mean, I would argue that this was the best track from Mario Kart 7. This is the same thing as Urchin Underpass, where it's equally open yet compact battle map without all the obstacles this time. I mean, it's wide, it's big, it has that big open area in the middle, and then it has all the little square streets everywhere. It's just a really, really cool design league track. And going back to that big open area, one of my absolute favorite things to do, and probably the reason why this track is so high for me, is just Bomb on Blast. I mean, you can literally just drive around in that circle around the fountain over and over again, and just just spam bombs. I mean, I think that idea is just honestly hilarious. It's one of the most favorite things for me to do in Bomb on Blast. It is my favorite map for that type of battle mode, and just because of that, this map just holds a lot of special places to me. But a lot of that is just personal bias. I mean, trying to be objective here, I mean, what can you say? This map is a really solid map. I mean, like I said before, it has all the little blocks of the streets going around it, so you can have, I guess, wild goo chases in that area. You can have big open areas in the middle where you can just shoot items and have bananas everywhere. It has that going for it, and like I said, it just checks off all the box for all the different type of modes in this game. And just honestly, without a doubt, this is certainly one of my absolute favorite maps going back to over and over again. So if there was any map to choose from over all the other battle tracks, this would certainly be the one I'd pick. And with that, we are done. Every battle track ranked. These are just my opinions, and if you have your own rankings, then definitely let me know down in the comments below. Overall, they're all pretty great and definitely better than the Mario Kart 8 ones, except for maybe Lunar Colony, but I've already said what I've had to say on that one. If you enjoyed, then please like and subscribe and all that jazz, and yeah, I'll get to see you in the next one. Take care.